The phone lines were down from the storm, so the voice calling my landline shouldn't have existed. I was staying at my grandmother's farmhouse while she recovered in the hospital. The place was old, built in the 1800s, with hand-hewn beams and wallpaper that had peeled back into curled strips. Most of the rooms hadn't been used in decades. I was only there because someone needed to keep the pipes from freezing during the blizzard. I told myself it'd be simple. Just keep the stove fed, check the generator, wait out the storm. The wind hit that house like it hated it. Every window rattled. Snow piled against the porch until the world looked drowned in white. I had a lantern lit and the stove burning hot, and still the cold crept in through every seam. Just as I started to settle in for the night, the rotary phone on the wall rang. One sharp, metallic chime. That phone hadn't been connected since the late 90s. Hell, the line itself had been cut along the road years ago. I just stood there in the kitchen, staring at it. The old cord swaying like it had been lightly touched. I told myself it was a temperature shift. Just a metal ping. But then I heard footsteps upstairs, slow, heavy, crossing the length of the farmhouse. No one had been up there in decades. The second floor had been closed off after a structural collapse. The staircase was blocked. There was no way, physically no way, anyone could be up there. My skin crawled with a cold that wasn't from the storm. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the fire, until I heard a tiny metallic click behind me. The attic latch above the pantry had unhooked itself. I watched the door ease open, maybe an inch, like breath had pushed it. The house felt like it was inhaling. I stepped backward, pulse racing. Every instinct told me not to go near that doorway. Then the footsteps returned, now in rhythm with me. When I walked to the living room, they followed overhead. When I paused, they paused. The boards groaned in exact alignment. It didn't feel like someone walking. It felt like someone mimicking. The lantern flickered. The wind shoved hard against the siding, and the phone rang again. This time, I answered. Panic does that. You act before you think. The voice that whispered through the receiver was mine. Not similar, not close, mine. Don't look up. I froze. The words echoed in my skull, sickening and cold. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. The footsteps overhead stopped directly above me. Another creak, a heavier one, like something lowering itself closer. I backed away slowly, staring at the chandelier. It swayed violently, even though every window was locked tight. Light fractured across the walls in frantic, shaking patterns. Dust rained down in a sudden shower. Then, through the cracks between the floorboards above me, something looked down. A face, gray, sunken, stretched too thin, over bone. Eyes black and wide. Fixed in a stare that didn't blink, its cheek pressed against the boards, as if it were listening through them. As if this whole time, it had been waiting for me to stand in the exact right place. My breath hitched. The temperature around me plummeted. until I could see my exhale. I ran. The front door was nearly snowed shut, but adrenaline tore it open. The wind outside hit me so hard it felt like knives. I didn't look back. Didn't stop. I sprinted through knee-high drifts to my truck and slammed the doors locked. I curled into myself, shivering so violently my teeth ached. The house loomed in the darkness, lantern glow flickering through the windows. I expected something to emerge, to step out onto the porch, to follow the prints I'd made in the snow. But nothing did. Hours crawled by. The blizzard softened. The storm slowly broke. Dawn finally cut a thin blue line across the fields. Only then did I gather the courage to go back for my belongings. Inside the farmhouse, the attic door was wide open, not just unlatched, but fully swung out. A sharp, bitter smell lingered, something like old soil and metal. The second floor, still sealed, held fresh footprints in the dust. Not human ones. Too long, too narrow, spaced too far apart. Underneath the floorboards where I'd stood the night before, deep claw marks raked across the beams, like something had been dragging its fingers back and forth for years, waiting for someone to stand still enough to hear it. I left that morning and never went back. The farmhouse sits empty now. The family talks about selling it, but no one actually does. There's something in old houses that remembers us, something that listens through the walls. And sometimes late at night, when the wind hits my apartment building just right, I hear footsteps move across the floor above me, perfectly matching my own. If you made it this far, subscribe for more true horror stories. The security camera kept sending motion alerts, yet every frame showed only me, standing outside at different distances. I spent Christmas alone that year, in a brand new smart home on the edge of the Smoky Mountains. I was hired to test the place before it went up as a luxury rental, check the locks, run diagnostics on the cameras, push all the automation features to their limits. Honestly, I thought it would be easy money. A warm cabin, a stocked fridge, a quiet forest, buried under early snow. The first night felt too quiet, like the house was holding its breath. Everything was sleek, polished, untouched. The air smelled faintly of new wood and cold circuitry. Every footstep echoed a little too cleanly. Just after midnight, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I wasn't worried at first. Raccoons set off these systems all the time. But when I opened the app, my breath caught. The figure in the screenshot looked exactly like me. Same height, same jacket, same stance. But I was inside. The image was blurry, as if the camera struggled to focus on it. But the outline was unmistakable. The figure stood near the tree line, facing the house. I stared at the screen so long, my eyes watered, hoping a trick of the shadows would reveal itself. Then another alert came in. This time, the figure was 20 feet closer. Another alert, 10 feet away. Another, 5. The timestamps were seconds apart. Too fast for someone to run that distance without being captured mid-stride. It was like it jumped toward the lens. I felt the house suddenly grow smaller around me. My pulse thudded in my ears. Some part of me, some ancient biological instinct, told me not to open the door. But I had to know. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The cold hit instantly, sharp and metallic in my lungs. Snow crunched under my boots. I scanned the tree line, sweeping the beam across the dark pines. No one there. No footprints. Just the electric hum of the house behind. I took one step backward, and the door clicked shut, locked automatically. My stomach dropped. I hadn't enabled auto-lock. I hadn't touched anything. I reached for the handle, but the panel stayed red. Inside, I saw the hallway lights flicker on, one by one, like someone was walking through the house. My phone buzzed again. I looked. The camera now showed the figure standing directly at the front door. But I was at the front door. My fingers went numb. I swallowed hard and whispered, "What is happening?" even though no one could answer. Before I could think, footsteps erupted around the house. Not footsteps like a person running, but something much faster. A rapid, skittering loop that circled the cabin in seconds. Snow sprayed outward as the unseen weight pressed and lifted, tracing impossible paths. I pressed my back against the siding, heart hammering so loud I could barely hear the wind. Then, the lock clicked green. The house unlocked itself. The entryway lights flickered in a deliberate pattern, glowing in a slow wave that moved deeper inside, leading straight toward the basement stairs. An invitation or a trap. I stepped inside, only far enough to see the hallway monitor. My hands shook as I brought the screen awake. On the display feed, I saw myself, standing inches behind me. My breath froze mid-inhale. I refused to turn around. Every part of me screamed to run, but fear pinned me in place. The figure on the monitor leaned closer to the camera. My own face, distorted slightly in the lens, smiling in a way I never have. Too wide, too still. I bolted. I didn't even try the door. I sprinted to the nearest window, smashed it with a dining chair, and climbed through the fractured glass. Snow sliced at my palms. The cold swallowed me instantly. Behind me, inside the house, lights flared in a rapid pattern, like frantic signals or laughter. I didn't look back. I ran through the woods until branches tore at my jacket and my lungs burned. I didn't stop until the smart home was nothing but a dim glow through the trees. Even then, I kept going until I reached the old service road where I'd parked my truck. I sat there until sunrise, engine running, hands trembling violently. When the police arrived later that morning, they found no footprints outside the cabin except mine. No signs of forced entry, no damage except the broken window I caused. They chalked it up to a malfunctioning security system and stress. But when they checked the camera data, everything had been wiped, except one frame. The last frame. My face, perfectly centered, smiling into the lens. And I know I did not smile like that. I know I never stood where that photo was taken. I know something wore my shape, stepped into my posture, studied me so closely it could imitate me better than a reflection. I moved out of the mountains. I moved into a crowded apartment building where I can hear neighbors cough through the walls. It feels safer, in a way, to be surrounded by noise. But sometimes, in a dark window or a turned-off TV screen, I catch a glimpse of myself standing just a little too still, a little too far back, a little too patient, waiting for me to blink. If you made it this far, subscribe for more true horror stories like this one.